Hey guys, it's Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day. So far, so good here. Got a nice cup of red clover tea in my new mug that I'm loving so much. It's always nice to have a nice warm cup of something when there's a chill in the air, when there's fall in the air, autumn, things like that. So anyhow, this video is actually inspired by a couple of people. So I had a viewer suggest to me doing a series of videos talking about this list, and he thought that it might make an interesting series or whatever of videos. And so I got to thinking about it, and I was like, okay, how am I gonna do this? And what's the format going to be and stuff like that. So I needed to think about it a little bit, but the idea of doing this series of videos is all thanks to Frank. So Frank, thank you for this suggestion, and I'm finally getting on it. So the second person to inspire this video is actually the author of this list, and that is my teacher, friend, mentor, Christopher Penzak. So in July of this year, Christopher posted a blog on the Temple of Witchcraft website that was entitled Over 50 Things Every Witch Should Try at Least Once. And I remember seeing the article. I actually printed the article here. Look at this cool graphic that's part of the article. And so I remembered perusing the article, and then when Frank suggested it, I went back and did some hardcore looking, and some things on here I have done, some things I have not done. So I thought it might be interesting if I took, you know, depending on what the experience was, if I took the time to maybe discuss a few of them in each video, or if it was something that I hadn't done, maybe I could actually film doing it. So we'll see how this progresses. So I will put a link in the description box to this article if you're interested in checking it out, and if you're interested in experiencing this list and trying things yourself, then, you know, I encourage you to do so, because there's some really neat things on here. So Christopher, as anyone who knows him, he has been practicing witchcraft for a number of years. And so when you're at this stage along your path, I've been practicing for over 20 years. And so sometimes things can feel a little, I don't know if I want to use the word stale, but that's like the first word that kind of comes to mind. And you might get to a point where you're not sure where the next phase of learning or experience or what have you is coming from. So maybe this list will inspire you, or it might even inspire me, because I have those same things that happen to me where it's like, okay, what do I do next with my time? So I have looked ahead at this list, and I'm going to discuss the first 3 in this video, because the first 3 are actually things that I have done, or kind of done. So let's jump in, shall we? So the first item on the list is to make your own spell ink from berries. It's messy and it's fun. So I have technically not made ink from berries, but I have made ink from the blossoms of the mullein plant. So I figured that's going to count as, you know, being along the same lines. And I've thought about doing berry ink, but I don't often do spell work that requires ink. So it's not really something that's a major part of my practice. And berry ink from what I've read and looked at, it doesn't last that long because it can spoil rather quickly. So the reason that I even looked at doing a Mullen ink to begin with is because it was done in vodka, and so that acted as a preservative, and it was interesting. So what you do is you'll take like a little jar, like maybe a little 4-ounce jar, or maybe a jar that you've upcycled from something that you've purchased with a grocery item, and you'll want to go out and collect the blossoms from a mullen plant when it's flowering. And it's really interesting, the flowering time for a mullen, because if you're not familiar with what a mullen looks like, it's a tall, stocky plant, and it has fur on its leaves, and it can have quite sizable long leaves. And so at the top of the stalk is where you have the little flowers. And I mean, these flowers are really like no bigger than your nail, okay, when they blossom, when they're open. And so the top part there, it kind of reminds me of, oh, what is that called? Oh, I can see it in my head, like a cattail. A cattail, that's what it's called. So a cattail has that brown piece that's at the top of its stalk. So that's kind of what the mullen looks like, but instead it's going to have little flowers. And so you want to pick those flowers when they're in bloom, and like I said, they're pretty small, so you might need quite a few in order to make your ink. But you put them in your little jar, cover them with vodka, a good vodka, something that's a higher proof, so that it, you know, keeps well. And then you want to let it steep for, I don't know that you need to let it go 6 weeks, but I always try to keep that 6-week infusion thing in my head when doing things like that with plant matter, because, you know, that's how I do my tinctures and my infused oils is, you know, you go at least 6 weeks. And then what you're left with is a really pale yellow ink. And then from there, you could use something like a feather, that like go old school and use a feather, and you can cut the tip and dip it into the ink. Or there's some really beautiful glass ink pens that that I've seen, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I would do something like that more if I had a really cool pen like that. So I'm kind of tossing that idea around in my head, but you would want something that you would dip in the ink, and then you could write your spell out. You could write your words of power. You could write a sigil or something along those lines. The only thing is that it's going to be very light in color. And as a matter of fact, I don't know that I have anything left that I could show you what the Mullen ink looked like. But, you know, if you were doing a spell for, let me try to reference this super quickly, because mullen is a really great herb, and I know that I look at it a lot for use in lung issues, if you're looking at health things, but magically speaking, mullen is good for courage, protection, health, love, divination, and exorcism. So if you were working a spell, honing in on one of those things, then you might want to use an ink made from the mullen to do that. Now, you could probably use, I haven't done any research into it, but any herb that puts off color when you infuse it or do a tincture, you could probably use that as ink as well. I'm trying to think, maybe like an elderberry tincture, that's definitely got some color to it, because elderberries, I believe, are used for for dyeing, for dyes. So you could use something along those lines. Beets are very colorful. And then of course the berries, like his article originally talked about, you can get a lot of good color off raspberries, blackberries, even cranberries, things like that would be, and I would just go about that kind of in the same way. But in a situation with a berry, I wonder if you could infuse that in some vodka. That, I'm liking the look of, or the thought of that, because I think what I had seen was someone had crushed berries and then in the juice that produced, they wrote from there. But if you did something in the alcohol, it might make something that has a better shelf life. So if someone has that might be something that I want to try, because I think I actually have some blueberries in the refrigerator as we speak. And so if anybody has some experience in that, give a comment in the comment sections below. And am I onto something? Is it something that's been done? I think I might have to play with that. Okay, so there's that. So the second item on this list is grow a plant from seed and then use it in magic. And so I love to grow plants. Okay, I've gone through various seasons in my life, so to speak, where I've done exceptionally well growing plants, and then I've gone through times when I've done a horrible job of keeping plants alive. And it has to do with where I'm living. It has to do with the amount of sunlight that naturally comes in, things like that. Kind of like a gimme situation. The one thing that I really struggle with is growing things from seed. Now, my brother, he has done exceptionally well growing things from seed. And actually this year as well, my uncle, who does a big garden every year, this year, because of all the COVID things and such, he actually started a lot of his garden plants from seed. And he's got a cute little greenhouse that he got them going inside, transferred them outside, and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm not super great at it myself. I tried this year and I had several things that I started from seed. And I think what I need to do is if it's because they're all herbs and things that I wanted to plant outside. And I think what I need to do in the future is I need to start them earlier. So I have a story that I will try to keep short, and it kind of falls into the fact that Christopher wrote this article and everything else. During my third year of temple training, you center on shamanic work, and so part of that work is you have to grow a bane plant. So something like a henbane, a mistletoe, something that's part of that bane side of the family of plants. And so the time of year that we started class and I found out about this year-long assignment, it was winter time or coming on winter time. And I'm like, there is no way that I am going to find a plant because the nurseries weren't open. And the local Meijer and Walmart stores here in my town, they have small sections of house plants, but I couldn't find anything that was part of that bane family. And so I had messaged Christopher with like, help, what do I do? I can't grow from seed. I stink at it. What do I do? And he came back with something that Adam, one of his partners, said to him. And that was, you're a witch, aren't you? You can make this happen. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. And so I actually ordered seeds from an online source that the temple always suggests if you're looking for seeds for some of those things that are really hard to find, like henbane or wolfbane, different seeds like that. And so I ordered some seeds, and I followed the instructions and did all of that, and I managed to get things to sprout. But this was a number of years ago when I was in a really black thumb time of growing things. And so I was honestly thrilled that I at least got the seeds to sprout, and the little plant got about 2 inches tall and then croaked off on me, unfortunately. But I felt a sense of accomplishment that I had gotten it that far, because there were steps that happened before, even putting it in dirt or anything like that. So it's kind of cool. So I want to give you the method if you're interested in starting things from seed. If you're wanting to try this, I highly recommend it. And the website where I ordered the seeds from is alchemy-works.com. And I'll put that link in the description box so that you can follow that and go check it out. The seeds that I started were mandrake. It was mandrake. And so, unfortunately, that didn't grow. Well, it didn't survive, I should say. But they have all kinds of seeds. And I've really been thinking, because I had limited success this year, with starting seeds, I'm thinking about ordering some seeds from there, because I've been wanting a valerian and I can't find any in our local nurseries. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just try to grow my own and go from there. So I highly recommend that you try that. It's kind of a transformative thing to do to get your hands kind of in the dirt and to try something from seed. And I will also suggest too that in the springtime, at least that's when I find them here. In some of the warmer states, you might be able to find them like more year round, but there's a company out there called Jiffy, and they produce seed starting things. And so I purchased this spring something that reminded me of a dozen eggs. It's a plastic tray with a lid that goes over it, and they sell these little pods that you put water over it and they expand, and so that's what you put your seeds in, little peat pod type things. And so I bought those, and they hold 12. Those little cases hold 12. And I also found that you can buy boxes of the little pellet discs, so you can buy that one seed tray and then you can keep using it over and over again. So that's kind of nice. So I bought those, started the little seeds, just follow the directions there, put your seeds in it, and watch for the magic to happen. So that's the second item. The third item on the list is to really watch an insect or arachnid at work. Watch a spider spinning a web, or the coming and going of an anthill, beehive, or wasp nest. Observe a caterpillar or beetle eating a plant. So I have a story about this too. Imagine that. I was terrified of spiders. Absolutely terrified of arachnids. And a few years ago, my friend Lee, who does the lapidary things, I don't even know how she got into it, but she decided that she was going to get herself a tarantula and raise a tarantula from a baby. And so she started with one, And she went to 2, quickly went to double digits. There was a time, I think, when she had 18 tarantulas total, all in their own separate tanks and what have you. And so early on in her time of having them, she had a baby, Versicolor. I think that's kind of like its nickname. But this Versicolor, it's an arboreal tarantula, so it likes to be up high rather than a ground dweller. And so this particular tarantula, when it's a baby, it's a beautiful blue color, like a beautiful royal blue. Okay. And then as it gets to adulthood, it changes color to like a magenta. That's a really interesting color as well. And so I remember when she got this baby, and he was tiny. He was no bigger than the pad of my thumb. And so she had him in this little plastic container like what you get at a deli with the lid that snaps on. So that's what she brought him home in and stuff. And he stayed in there until he was big enough that she could put him in, you know, another cage or another tank. And I remember watching him move around his little little container there, and I thought I was fascinated. When she first got into tarantulas, I was like, nope, not interested. You keep that. I'm not interested. But it was that little Versicolor baby that I watched him move around. She fed him a cricket, and I watched him eat the cricket, and I was fascinated by how he moved and everything else. And so it helped me. I was in it with her, and I actually did for a time have a couple of tarantulas myself. They have since moved on and to the Rainbow Bridge, but they're very interesting creatures, and I feel that experience of just watching hers like really cured my terror of tarantulas and spiders. And so I think that that's a good thing. That was an experience in my life that I needed to go through in order to kind of, you know, move on and leave that fear behind, which that's always kind of a healthy thing. So yeah, it was cool. And so watching things in nature and how things move, there's so much that can be gained from it. First of all, you slow your mind down. Okay. You learn how another creature exists and moves. And I feel like it's a bit meditative, in a way, because you're in that moment. You're living the moment. You're watching, you're experiencing almost through the eyes of something else. And I think that's incredibly magical as well. Okay. So there are the first 3 items from this list. If you think this is interesting and you want me to continue with this list, let me know. I mean, I think it's fun to talk magical experiences and how they affect us and how they change us and how they change our magic and help us along our path and things like that. So if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. And I would love to hear your experiences with any of these 3 items on this list. So put that in the comments section below. There's lots of links in the description box for social media. Instagram, my Instagram, Kathy's Instagram, Facebook page, things like that. So check them out. And I guess that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and thanks for taking the time to walk the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.